Yo, Hoophead Nation, what is up? I'm Eddie Aparicio. This is my co-host, Anthony Tuan Corral, and this is Buzzer Beaters, a podcast brought to you by grumblingsmedia.com. We specialize essentially in NBA talk. So every week, we're going to go ahead and walk around the NBA a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and dovetail into the Warriors, right? You can see we have the emblem over here. Tuan's doing his run TMC. So every week, we're going to go ahead and go over the NBA first, and then we're going to go ahead and go into the Warriors. One question I want to ask right from the beginning, man. Have you seen the Detroit Pistons, man? Talked about them last
I've
week.
been watching them here and there,
They
man.
won 13 in a row, and I think they were playing tonight. They could be going on 14 in a row.
No, the Boston beat them.
So Boston beat them. So the 13-game winning streak, right?
Yeah,
So
holy mackerels.
Oh, man, this team is on fire right now.
And the thing is, they've had starters go in and out throughout that streak. It hasn't been just
Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham was hurt, right? So
yeah.
And then he came back. Isaiah Stewart was hurt. He's coming back. Tobias Harris was hurt. He's now back. Jaden Ivey was hurt. They're back. But I got to tell you, man, this team is for real, man. I mean, let me ask you, do you think they're going to be the team that comes out of the East, man? Are the Detroit Pistons for real?
I still want to say it's a year too early. I'm thinking, to me, their best case scenario is they get to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose. Obviously, their best case scenario is to win the whole thing. But what I'm saying is, given their development and where they're at, for me, if they're able to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose, that's still that they're ahead of schedule to me, but that's good. But could they win the whole thing? Absolutely. If they keep playing the way they're playing, yes.
Well, they had like we said, they had a 13-game winning streak, but they weren't the only ones that were on a streak. The Toronto Raptors had also won 8 in a row, right? And they're playing tonight too. We haven't really talked about the NBA Cup because the NBA Cup is going on right now.
Correct.
And I got to tell you, we haven't really talked about it much. Do you think the cup is here to stay, or do you think that thing's kind of waning a little bit?
I think it's here to stay. Although I don't know if you saw, but I know we're not talking about the West, but Luka was complaining about the way they paint those floors for the
color. Yeah,
I mean, some of them are out there. Although the one the Warriors had when they played, Utah was I like that floor. That was
pretty clean.
But yeah, no, I mean, here to stay.
Yeah, I mean, but they got to change how they kind of get the teams motivated to play hard. And, that's the whole reason why they did it is because, the NBA, a lot of these teams kind of do a lot of load management, early because it's a long season, right? So they wanted to kind of come up with something to make it more competitive, and I got to tell you, when it first came out, I'm like, God, this is really cool. The floors are cool, this and that. And then, I don't know. We talked about, does the team really benefit from doing this, right? Because they're playing one extra game, really, right?
Yeah.
But it's really, the fans I think like it, but do the players play hard for it? I don't know. I mean,
to me, the one reason I'd say it's here to stay is because of the way it's being marketed. Prime does all of the cup games like that. That's extra money for the NBA. So whether the players are fully into it or not, I think it's probably some way, shape, or form it's here to stay.
Okay. Well, I just want to briefly talk about, because it is going on right now. We haven't really talked about it, but we're talking about the Pistons. We're talking about the Raptors. The Raptors had won 8 in a row. They're playing again tonight.
Correct.
We'll see. They're in a dogfight too again, but it's NBA Cup time right now, right? So let me ask you this: are these the two teams to beat right now? The Pistons and the Raptors. Are they the team to beat in the East, or do you think?
Yeah, I would.
Or the Magic might emerge.
Yeah, I would let Miami into that. I think Miami's been playing really well. So yes, I mean, as of today, those are the teams to beat. Yes. But by the end of the season, I don't think those will be the teams to beat.
You still think it's going to be the Heat or the Knicks?
I still think Cleveland and New York will have a say in it. Everyone else. So I'll put it this way: one of those 3 teams will be the team to beat. And right now, I would lean heavily towards Detroit. So I think it's going to be a New York, Detroit, Cleveland 3-headed monster at the top of the conference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see, man. But I got to tell you, the Pistons, they're young, right? They have a couple of vets on the team. Tobias Harris is probably the oldest guy on the team right now, right? But for the most part, their team is pretty young. They got Duncan Robinson too. Duncan Robinson of the Miami Heat
for Miami
cheating, right? So this team is pretty well constructed. Their center position is well constructed too. They have Isaiah Stewart coming off the bench, and he's a rough, tough guy, and
he's crazy. He's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But Cade Cunningham's a player, man. I mean, that guy. It took him a while to kind of get going, but he is now here and actually, showing, the NBA world that this guy, is the number 1 pick for a reason, and he's showing it, right? He was the number 1 pick 5 years ago, and He's playing out of his mind right now. He's a really good player. He's a triple-double threat almost every time he hits the floor. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Cade Cunningham is one of those players that enforces the argument that you got to give young players some playing time.
Yeah.
Right. There's always these arguments, we get at it with Kuminga, we get at it with other players that are on winning teams that they don't get as much minutes as we think they should, and they don't develop. And sometimes they never develop. But Cade Cunningham is one that got the minutes, started off kind of more, how would I say it, more athlete than basketball player. And now he's more basketball player than athlete is the way that I would kind of describe his skill set, although he's still a hell of an athlete.
Right. No, I agree, man. So what's interesting, I asked you the question about which one of these teams, are going to emerge, right? Let me just give you some data on this, all right? So from a net rating standpoint, the Pistons are the number 4 best rated team in the NBA, all right, with a net rating of 7.06. We all know who number 1 is, right? We know the Thunder are number 1. Okay, the Raptors are number 5. That was surprising to me. They are number 5 at 6.89, okay, a net rating. Now, net rating is per 100 possessions, what you're going to be outscoring your team by 6.89 points on average, right? That's what that is. Yep. So the Heat are the number 7th net rated team in the NBA at 5.49. Okay, that's net rating positive 5.49. The Knicks are number 8 at 5.39. Magic are number 9 at 5.13. Now the Magic, what's interesting is that they were they were like a big time defensive team last year, right? They had lost Paolo Banchero for a little while. That poor guy gets hurt. It seems like every year, man. I don't know, man, but they seem to kind of have to work without him for some time. But the Magic, they got Desmond Bane, right? And Desmond Bane, it took him a while to get going. I don't think he's really 100% really integrated yet with this team. I think the team still are trying to figure out how to integrate this guy, right? He's a good shooter.
I think you're right.
He's a good shooter, but for whatever reason, they just don't really, mesh. I don't know, man.
They're not historically a good shooting team, so they don't, you know what I mean? Banchero attacks the hoop, Wagner attacks the hoop. They're kind of, I don't want to say they're inside out. I mean, they shoot a lot of threes, or they have historically. They're just not very high at it. And so I think that, they're trying to figure that out. I think, to your point, I think they're trying to figure out how to implement a natural 3-point shooter.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is that, they really don't have shooting, like you mentioned, right? Desmond Bane pretty much is probably their best shooter on the team. Although Franz Wagner is a decent shooter, but he's streaky, right? Paolo Banchero is also kind of one of these. He's a scoring type. He's just not like a shooter, right?
Yeah.
They have Tristan Da Silva. He's also kind of like a streaky type player as well. Yeah. You got Wendell Carter, who's the center. He's he can shoot the 3 as well, but they're not all consistent, right? They're not consistent 3-point shooters. And Desmond Bane was supposed to be that guy. So, let's give us some time. I think that this team is emerging, right? When they played the Warriors, the Warriors, we'll get to the Warrior talk in the second segment, but when they played the Warriors, you can see this team is going to be a problem once they start getting, all their, Paolo Banchero back, right? I mean, that's their main issue, right? They don't have on that team. He's the best player on that team. And any team that doesn't have their best player is going to have to adjust and sometimes struggle in the outset, right? So, all right, man. So anyway, so any other parting thoughts on the East before? Well, actually,
just you mentioned, and I was trying to count there.
No, go ahead. No.
Sorry, I think I'm getting a little bit of a delay. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is I was trying to count, and I counted 5 of the top net rated teams were in the Eastern Conference. Is that right? Of the 10 that you named off, is it 5 and 5? 5 in the East, 5 in the West.
So there was So in the West, I'll tell you what. Once we get to the West.
Yeah, no, I know, but was it 5 and 5?
So there are, So I have. You mean out of the 5 teams that we're talking about?
No, how many of the teams in the top 10 are East?
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, no, let me take that back. So the Rockets are in the. Okay, so we have the Detroit Pistons, the Toronto Raptors, Miami Heat, New York Knicks, Orlando Magic. 5.
So 5. So it's 5 and 5. That's what I thought I counted. And the reason I just bring that up is that, this year more than any there was a lot of chirping about how much better the Western Conference is than the Eastern Conference. And although I do think that the top tier teams are probably more Western Conference, Oklahoma is obviously top tier. And I think we could probably argue that Denver and Houston are top tier. Now we can get into the Lakers here in a minute. That's a little unexpected. But I think that the teams that we thought would be top tier in the East are not top tier right now. right? Detroit and Toronto are, as we mentioned. Miami is up there, which is an interesting conversation in and of itself. They got rid of Jimmy Butler, they got rid of Duncan Robinson.
No, the
They
Heat,
did a couple of changes.
Yep.
I mean, they're actually playing very well, and so those three teams are like kind of the top tier teams, with Cleveland and New York bringing up the bottom. And I just think that it's a lot more balanced than I would have thought at the beginning of the year between the Eastern and Western Conference.
Yeah, what's interesting is that the Miami, the Cleveland Cavaliers are right now the fourth seeded team right now in the East.
Yes.
Cleveland Cavaliers, their net rating is 3.67. That's 13th in the NBA right now. Okay,
Yeah.
so that tells you that they're not the same team as they were last year.
Correct.
For whatever reason, I mean, they're pretty much the same team for the most part. It's just that I think that everybody's prepared for them a little bit and got, they kind of just came out guns a blazing last year. Shooting the three at an unbelievable rate, and it doesn't seem to be happening at the same clip as last year. So, but that's interesting that they're the fourth seeded team and they're the 13th net rated team in the NBA. So, okay. So before we go to the West, what I wanted to ask you about is, hey, what happened to the Bulls, man? All right,
Fell off a cliff.
You pointed that out.
Yeah.
Like, you thought that was a mirage. That this team, started out really, really hot, and I was asking you, hey, are these guys for real? And you're like, no, I don't know, these guys are probably the mirage and might fall back down to earth. And I thought when they played on the road and they beat the Denver Nuggets, on the road, and that's not a easy place to win.
Yep.
And the Nuggets, they only have lost, 3 games. They've only lost 4 games. They've lost 4 games. Okay. And one of them is to the Chicago Bulls on the road at home, actually, for the Denver Nuggets. So I thought that would have catapulted them, gave them some confidence, but they seem to just completely just start kind of sputtering out, even after that win. So, it's interesting that this team, they have decent players on this team, right? They have a Josh Giddey, who's actually become a pretty good player. They got Nikola Vucevic, who's actually, doing pretty well. I mean, he's actually, he's been around the league for quite some time, but he's a pretty damn good center, right?
He is.
Yeah, you got Kobe White, who actually had been hurt for a while, right? But he had a calf strain, but he started getting reintegrated on the team.
Yep.
Then you and then you have
Ellis in his second year.
You have Bucelis, then you have Ayo Dosunmu, who's kind of like a defensive wing defender type. So I thought this team, was actually on the rise, but they have dropped, man. And I don't know. So I don't know if they're going to recover, or if this is just, what we saw in the very beginning was just a mirage, or if this is what we're seeing right now is really what they really are. So
one of the reasons I felt that we're a little bit of a mirage is because all the players you named are good, but they don't have a centerpiece. None of those players are a centerpiece.
Like standout players.
Yeah, like the man. Like the man on the team. They're all just really good players. And I think that they're missing that one kind of piece, so that now to what I said, I also said that I thought Philly had more staying power than Chicago.
Yes.
Philly's fallen off a cliff as well. But
sure.
my concern was the return of Embiid and what it does to the kind of the flow of their team.
And the thing is he's been out.
He hasn't come. Yeah.
He hasn't come back. And now you got Edgecombe, he got hurt, so he's been out, a few games so far. So, and then they have Paul George, he's come back. Then he's on a minutes restriction, and he didn't play. I think they played yesterday and he didn't play, right? He was a scratch. So the other team I want to bring up also are the Bucks. Okay, now Giannis Antetokounmpo has he's going to miss probably maybe another week. Although there was kind of speculation that he was amping up his workout, and he could return as early as tonight. But then he was a scratch. But this team without Giannis is going to be in deep trouble. I mean, right now, if you look at where they're at right now, they're right now the 11th seeded team at 8-10. Okay, and they've lost 5 in a row. Okay, and it's all in coincidence. It's when Giannis is not really playing right now, right?
No, Giannis is the whole.
He's their whole team, man.
He's their Steph.
Exactly. So the whole speculation is that the Bucks, the Giannis is a very, very loyal kind of player, right? And there's a lot of speculation that he's going to get disenchanted because he wants to win again, right? He has that only championship, and and then the team got kind of reconstructed. Chris Middleton's gone. Yeah, Brooke Lopez is gone. They're kind of they brought Miles Turner on the team. They have Kyle Kuzma, who's new addition to the team. You have now AJ Green, who's kind of a been inserted into the starting lineup. They have a bunch of just the guys. Just I use Charles Barkley's,
Yep.
right? They do. They're missing a deep threat. They need somebody who could shoot. When Giannis is kind of driving down the hole and dishing it, he used to have someone like a Brook Lopez, a Chris Middleton who could shoot,
Yep.
or Drew Holiday, right?
Yeah.
They don't have that anymore, right? So they're kind of one dimensional with Giannis being the star player that he is. He's a really tough guy to guard in the NBA. Probably one of the hardest guys to guard. If he could shoot consistently, that dude would be unstoppable. I mean, he would be the unicorn, honestly.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
so I just want to get your perspective on the Bucks, man. Do you think that these guys, have any shot of getting up to the top 6 at all, or do you think that this is where they're at?
No, I mean, last year they and obviously Giannis was out last season as well, as was Lillard. They remember, if you remember, towards the beginning of the season, they were playing pretty bad. Then they kind of got their act together and they started to get the players and they were playing a little more regularly. And then they ended up making the playoffs. And then Lillard got hurt, right? And then they did make the playoffs last year, right? They were
playing team.
They were playing team, but I guess they didn't make the playoffs. They lost on the playing team, right?
Yeah, initially, yeah.
So I guess
I don't remember
they
that.
didn't make the playoffs, but yeah. So to me, they're kind of going through that again. They like I said, he's their Curry, and when that type of player is in and out of the lineup, it's very hard for
you're screwed
to acclimate
for sure.
And just so you may get a win here and there. So I'm gonna say yes, they're going to be like a playing team again. I don't know if they'll make the 6th seed. I'm thinking somewhere like 7 through 10.
I see. I think what we see of them right now, their record says who they are. That's what I think. They're going.
I agree, but I'm not so much speculating on them as I am looking at the other teams that are ahead of it. Like Detroit's solid, Toronto's proving to be solid.
Cleveland, Miami,
New York, Orlando.
Knicks,
Orlando's
Orlando.
there. So there's a lot of teams that are ahead of them that should be ahead of them. Frankly, they just got more talent and they're better off. And so I think they're going to hover between 7 and 10.
Yeah, I would say that right now, if I look at the standings right now, the teams that are solid, the top 4 or the top 5 are going to be kind of moving around a lot among the Pistons, the Raptors, the Heat, the Cavs, and the Knicks. Those guys are going to be jockeying for those top 5 positions.
Correct.
Right. And then after that, you have the Hawks, the Magic. Those are the guys that are at 6 and 7. Then you have Boston surprisingly at number 8. Then the Bulls at number 9, and the Sixers at 10, and Milwaukee's at 11.
Correct.
Right? If you have below Milwaukee is Charlotte, Brooklyn, Indiana, and the Wizards. Those guys are going to be jockeying for those bottom 4 positions, right?
Correct.
I don't think they're very clever, man. I'm going to be. I want to see how this owner reacts to that. If he keeps everybody in, because this is kind of like one of these lost, seasons, because if they lost their best player, Tyrese Halliburton, to an injury.
Correct.
Kind of like, if you look at the way the Celtics kind of reacted to Jason Tatum, they did a fire sale, man. They did it right from the outset, right? Everybody was just gone, right? Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Luke Cornett, all gone, right? And then, that was their way of kind of dealing with it. But now the Pacers, they're dealing with the same scenario, right? And they have pretty much everybody intact except for Miles Turner, of course, and of course Tyrese Halliburton, right? So, but they still have decent players on this team. So what's going to happen come trade deadline? And they haven't really made any movement up the rankings, right? Are they going to just say, is ownership and the fans, are they going to be like clamoring, to do something? Or are they just going to reassure their fan base saying, hey, we're staying pat because, hey, this is kind of a lost season. We're going to develop some of our young guys, right? And, we all know this is what's going to, potentially going to happen, but it'll be interesting how they handle it. What are your thoughts, man?
One of the things that I would, one of the key differences that I see between Boston and Indiana is Boston won a championship. And that really allows them to have a fire sale because they're like, hey, we got our 2 key pieces, which are Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Yep.
We've got a couple of kind of complementary pieces that we haven't gotten rid of. And so I think for them, it's easier to kind of save on the cap, rebuild, and do that. With Indiana, it's different. I wouldn't do anything if I was them. I'd wait till next year because here's the thing. Halliburton had a hell of a year last year. But what we don't know was that a one-off? Is he the man? Can he repeat it? There's a lot of questions. And so if you assume he's the man and you take on other contracts and he's not, then you kind of screwed yourself. If you leave the team as is and see, and that's the other thing too, he's going to come back next year and it's going to probably take him a half to a 3/4 of a season to just get back to where he was
to be confident enough to play the same manner that he did, right?
So you really have lost 2 seasons, right? Yep. And I have to look up. I don't know what the salary situation is for like Nembhard and some of those other key players. Like, are they looking for raises? Or do they have contract renewals? I have to look that up. But you got to kind of take care of that. But if possible, if I'm Indiana, I'm leaving everything as is and see what we got towards the end of next season.
Yeah. I think they should keep everybody in touch. They shouldn't do a fire sale. I mean, they were in the finals last year, right? And the best player is out. But I guess you wouldn't expect this team to be as bad as it's shown, right? They only have, what is it? They only have 2 wins, and one of them against our Warriors, by the way, right? So they've only had 2 wins to this point, and that's very surprising to a team that was in the finals last year. All right, so kind of
no, it is. But let me ask you this, Eddie: why do you think they're so bad?
Oh man, you know what? It's probably that they don't have somebody like they don't have a backup point guard that is similar to what Tyrese Halliburton does. They have TJ McConnell, but he's a different kind. He's a change of pace kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
They could put Andrew Nembhard there too. I don't know. They seem to have lost their I don't want to say their focus, but their identity a little bit. They seem to have suffered some identity crisis right now.
You're thinking that the main reason is the loss of Halliburton. Halliburton makes that engine go. Well, I'm going to say, they lost both their leaders, right? They lost their kind of like veteran leadership in Miles Turner, right? Yeah. He was the guy who had been there, had done it before. He was kind of their big man that, could do multitude of kind of the dirty work and was there. And then they lost Halliburton, which was their star,
Yeah.
And so those 2 things are a huge loss. I mean, if I look at, just to relate it to the Warriors or, any other team, if you lose Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, that's it. What good are the Warriors? If you lose, obviously you can't do that for Orlando, but if Houston lost Şengün and Durant, what are we talking about? They are a lot worse than I thought they would be. I mean, they're really, really bad.
Yeah.
But they did take a big hit. Those 2 pieces were their best 2 pieces, I would argue, because some other players played better in the playoffs, but those were their 2 solid, their cornerstones.
Yeah. But then you have you also have a champion on the team in Pascal Siakam.
Correct.
Right. You would think that, having him, having, Neesmith, having Nembhard, having McConnell, having, Isaiah Jackson, who came back from an Achilles last year. I'm sure I'm missing a few others, but these are the guys, right? Oh, Ben Mathurin. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are all good, decent.
I agree. But if you remember with Siakam, the year after they won the championship, Siakam was kind of a shell of himself, which is really why he got traded. He wasn't really. So he seems like a player that's emotionally tied to how good the team is. If the team is better, he does better. If the team is kind of crappy, he kind of
falls. Like he doesn't lift the team up, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he just kind of follows suit. So when he helps, and when they suck, he helps.
That's it.
I mean, I'm just looking at historically at what he's done, because when Toronto, after Kawhi left, they were okay for a year or 2, and then they just started to get worse.
Yeah, that's a good call, man.
Yeah,
I like that.
Really do much there.
It's possible that is a big contributing factor, is that they need, once their superstar guy went out, nobody else was there to kind of help steer the ship in the right direction. And Pascal Siakam is that guy. He should be that guy, but he might be just one of these types that doesn't want to assert himself as a leader. He's kind of always been the other guy, right? Not necessarily the
exactly
leader. So, well, cool, man. Good points, man. So let's I know we're like 25 minutes into it. Let's go into the Western Conference, right? Okay. So, last week, or the last time we had this podcast, these teams, these 4 teams right here, the Lakers, the Suns, the Rockets, the Nuggets, they're all 8-2 in the last 10. Okay. Now, which one of these guys are for real, or which 2 are all these guys for real? Or do you think that, it's a mirage? Let me ask you that. Which is a mirage here?
2, I'm confident. Who's the mirage? The Suns. The Suns are the mirage. The Nuggets and Rockets are for reals, and the Lakers scare me.
Okay. What's interesting from a net rating standpoint?
Yes.
The Rockets are number 2 at 11.48 behind the Thunder.
The second best net rated team.
So the Thunder's net rating team is 16.96, dude.
I don't want to talk about them no more, man.
6, man. Okay, the Rockets are 11.48. Okay. Then after that, and again, they're the number 2 rated guy. The number 3 net rated team in the West amongst these 4 teams are the Nuggets. Okay, they're at number 3. They're when I mention number 3, this is all NBA, including the Eastern Conference.
So
right?
they're the top. Those 3 teams are the top.
Yeah. Thunder,
Rockets,
Rockets, and Nuggets rating in the entire NBA.
Yep,
But
yep.
the Nuggets number is 10.22. They're at number 3. Okay, net rating. The next one after that on the list are the Suns, bro. Okay,
Yeah.
the Suns are number 12 at 3.84. So that's interesting, man. I would have never thought. So if you were to and the Lakers are number 14 at 3.62. All right. So if you're going to say the Lakers scare you, well, their net rating isn't showing that they're that dominant of a team. Okay. If you look at the Warriors, just for comparison's sake, because this is our team, the Warriors are number 16. They're at 0.94. They're not even a point. Okay. But they're positive. They're just barely almost a 1, right? Net rating. Right. So it just gives you an idea, like, relatively speaking, net rating is a good barometer of how good a team really is. It is.
Yeah.
Just from a metric standpoint, this is probably the most accurate thing, honestly. But if I were to go ahead and ask you that question again, and having given you this data, would you change your mind on who the Mirage is?
No, I wouldn't, simply for the reason, well, the Rockets and Nuggets, they are where I thought they would be, right? Okay. In the top 3 of the NBA. That's where I thought they would be. The reason that I give the Lakers some slack is that they've had a lot of missing pieces. LeBron's only been back for a couple of games. Luka would miss some games, right? So they were trying to figure something out in the middle of all of this, which, you brought it up, I want to say last week or the week before. You're like, hey, it's giving them an opportunity to grow. And then the pessimist, was like, yeah, but I think once Luka and LeBron are back, they may mess that all up. Well, I watched the Clipper game last night, and they didn't mess it all up. They are very much spreading the ball. They are playing. I mean, Luka's still Luka, but LeBron is kind of, and I don't know why I doubt this, but LeBron is seeing where he fits and making it work. You can see that he's
deferring, man.
Yes, he's not only deferring, but where it goes and who it goes to. And so, that's kind of scary to me, because that's why I would say that even though the net rating is better on the Suns, the Lakers are on an upswing. And so the Suns, I'd have to kind of look at their schedule, who they played, a couple of different things as to why they got to that net rating, right? And so that's why I still stick with the Lakers. The Suns are surprising, and maybe they're here to stay, and maybe I'm all wet. But to me, they're the ones that I would say are more likely to kind of fade than any of those other 3 teams, just based on what I've seen the Lakers play the last couple of games.
It's interesting though. If I looking at the roster of the Suns, right? Devin Booker, we know he's a multi-year All-Star guy, right?
Yep.
Then they have, realistically after that, they have a bunch of guys who are kind of just the guys, right? They have this guy Connor Gillespie out of Villanova. He's actually been playing point guard a lot, right? Then you have Jordan Goodwin, who was one of their shooting guards. He came from the Lakers, by the way. All right, played for the Memphis Grizzlies before that. So he's a journeyman. Seems to have found a home here, right? Then you got the biggest punk in the NBA, and Dylan Brooks, right? And that guy, he's fitting in well with this team, man. All right. Then you got Royce O'Neal, who he's been playing. He does all the dirty work, man. The guy's, I've always liked him as a player because he does all the dirty work, right? Then you got, Mark Williams as their center, right? Then you got Nick Richards, spelling him when he needs a rest, and they have also Iguodaro, he's been playing Ryan Dunn. They just have the way this team has gelled is very, very interesting. It was not, you couldn't see this happening, right? But it seems to be working, man. So
yeah. So I got a hot take for you, Eddie. One that
go for it.
Okay, Dylan Brooks, when he played for Memphis, that was their best years.
Yes.
He goes to Houston, which was a crappy team when he went there, and they played a lot better.
Yes.
Now he's at Phoenix, and now they're playing better.
Yes.
Is he got some kind of magic formula, this guy? When I see him, he's not much to look at. He's just a pest, and he's a punk.
Yes.
And,
maybe he just brings that attitude that, the attitude that is needed in the locker room, man. He is kind of a presence. He's a big dude. He's not small. He's pretty strong. He's a big dude, right? I don't know if you saw the tussle between him and Jimmy Butler. There was like a tussle. I saw a video about it. I don't know if it was the last game or not, but he was, Jimmy Butler was saying, I've been schooling you from day one. And, and then Dylan Brooks was like, come on, you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's something to be said. That's an interesting observation that you made, that wherever Dylan Brooks goes seems to catapult that team to the next level. And I don't know if that's coincidence or if that's causation or correlation. I don't know, right? I would probably say,
I wouldn't have said much except that, like, I look at this Phoenix team and yeah, they're okay, but they're playing ahead of their skis right now. To me, they're playing ahead of their skis. You know, just based on the talent that the rest of the conference has. And I'm not saying they're not talented, but you put them against some of the other teams and the talent they have, and I wouldn't have them as a higher net rating than the Lakers. I wouldn't have them, even in this conversation. But so I think maybe he brings a defensive mentality. He brings kind of bully ball where we're not afraid of anyone. Like I'm willing to challenge anyone, and maybe that empowers the players. I don't think there's anything from a skill set that he brings that changes these teams, but I'm thinking there's something from a mindset that he brings that changes these teams.
I don't know. It's possible. I mean, it's a very interesting observation that you made. He is a good player, though. I don't want to say that he's not a great player. He's not.
No, he's a good. He's like Pat Bever.
Yeah, he's a nuisance. But he's a good defender, man. He defends at an elite level, man. Honestly, he really is. He is a bigger version of Lou Dort, really.
Yeah.
Because Lou Dort is like a pest too, but he doesn't have the attitude. Lou Dort just goes out there and is like brings his lunch pail and goes to work
and is quiet about it. He does.
Right.
Yeah.
And this guy is all about, trying to get in your head. Right.
Yep.
And, that's part of his panache. Right. So anyway, man, so good observation. So let's go on because we're kind of getting close on time. So the last segment I want to ask you about are the Mavs and the Clippers. These guys, can they recover, man? Are we seeing who they are, or is this kind of like an anomaly right now? It's just, we know the Clippers are the oldest team in the NBA, right? And they had last year they took the Nuggets 7 games, man. All right, this team is good. They were good.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they seem to have fallen apart. Is it just age, or what's going on? And the Cavs, we already know about them, right? They fired Nico Harrison, right? And now they have Cooper Flag playing point, and Anthony Davis hasn't been back in the lineup for a long time. He's missed a lot of games. But do you see these guys recovering once everybody comes back? For the Mavs, that's the case, but for the Clippers, it's not. The Clippers, something's happened. We don't know. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah. So, to start off the season, we had that whole controversy with Kawhi that he was getting paid through some shell company or some third company for advertising. They were circumventing the salary cap. So I don't know but I'll tell you this. I watched Kawhi last night, and I watched him a couple of games ago, and he looks old, like old. Like, I don't know why he's still doing what he does, but it's slower. And to me, I've always felt that team goes as far as Kawhi can take, right? So to me, if Kawhi continues to look the way I've seen him the last couple of games, I'm going to say no, they're not coming back. The Mavs are an interesting, how would I put this? The Mavs are suffering from the fact that they traded Luka, and they want to get back to where they were with Luka, like right away. They're like being impatient about it.
Yeah. Because the fan base is pissed, man.
No, I understand. They're trying to make up for that, and that impatience is causing their demise.
That's a good call. That's a good call. Yeah, that's a good call. I agree with you.
Yeah, because I think that this team needs a year and a half to gel. They got a lot of talent on this team. Now, the wild card is Anthony Davis. The guy's always hurt. So if you can figure out a way to, back him up or have a piece that can fill in for him when he's hurt, then I think they're fine. But if they have a fire sale, if they trade Anthony Davis, if they trade, a Lively or one of the other bigs, I don't know if I agree with that. I think they should leave well enough alone. But I don't think that they're going to recover necessarily this year.
Yeah. So we got Guillermo chiming in here. It says, people built a powerhouse in Dallas. Why not involve him more? He's on the outs.
He's
but
on
why?
The outs.
Yeah, he's probably
he sold his piece, right?
I think he's still a minority. I'm not sure if he's still a minority stakeholder in the team, but the majority of it is no longer his, right? But he's still, the guy did do a very good job as an owner.
He did.
He did. He turned that franchise around, man, big time. And
he understood the fundamental rule, which is stars get paid. He understood that rule through and through. And one of the reasons they let Luka go is because the organization didn't want to commit that much money to a player where they question his habits. That's why I think they did it. They're like, dude, we're going to give this guy 300 to 500 million.
Yeah.
And he's fat and doesn't want to come into our training. And like, how are we going to do that? But the golden rule is he's your star. He's the talent. So whatever he's doing, he got you to the Western Conference Finals the year before.
Conference Finals.
And so that's the talent, man, that you got to pay. Just like I remember, a million years ago, for those that are younger, when Chris Webber played for the Warriors and him and Don Nelson were getting along, and they got rid of Chris Webber. It's like, you don't get rid of the talent, man. You don't get rid of the talent. I love Don Nelson, but you don't get rid of the talent.
You don't get rid of, I agree with you, man.
Yeah, and that's what they did. They got rid of their talent, and now they're chasing their tails. And, I think that their panic is going to make it worse.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. That's a good
But for this year, I don't think they recover.
I think that's a good call, man. That their impatience is the reason for their demise. I think that's a good line and good quote, man. I think that's right, man. All right, man. So let's go. We're already at 40 minutes, and we still have to cover our second segment, and this is our weekly Warriors segment. So here are some of the questions, man, I want to pose to you, right?
First question, yes.
First question, right?
Yeah.
Are long athletic teams their kryptonite? All right. We saw that the Portland Trail Blazers, they're not the most athletic team, but they're athletic. But they seem to have something on the Warriors, and the Warriors they struggle against this team. Now, we already know that the other athletic teams, they're playing one tonight because they're playing the Houston Rockets. They're another athletic team. The Thunder blew them out so bad that they kind of was having internal turmoil about, an identity crisis, if you will, right? And they seem to turn things around, right? Again, they saw what the champs look like, and they know that they had a lot of work to get to that point where the Thunder are, right? So that was a good measuring stick for them, but a good reminder that they have to pay attention to the details, right? Now, I'm going to jump to the other topic here. That the very last topic is, what about Jimmy's comments, right? Did you hear about his comments about the defense? He's calling out the team about the defense. They're not playing like he thought that they should be playing, right? Because it's not Warriors basketball to be playing the way we're playing without, so was it warranted? Let me ask you that. Were those comments warranted? Do you think it's fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair if Jimmy, as one of the key defenders in that locker room, feels like the other guys aren't giving their effort. I think that, it's fair to call them out. I did want to kind of go back to, so it isn't that long athletic teams are their kryptonite, even though it is. That is, yes. But here's the thing: teams that are able to recover and prevent Curry from shooting and getting where he wants to get, that's the kryptonite, right? When you can minimize Curry to do his thing, the rest of the team can't move forward effectively.
Well, the rest of the team can't function unless there's another shooter on the squad other than Curry, right?
Correct.
That's the way this offense was built. It was architected that way because of Klay Thompson, right? Now, when they don't have a Klay Thompson, they have a Buddy Hield, who, like I said, is the definition of streaky, right?
Yes.
He's a really good shooter when he has time to shoot, right? Now, is he like a Klay Thompson that can just release and go at a blink of an eye? No, he has to go through his process to shoot the ball, so the only way the Warriors are successful is if they can identify somebody else who can shoot the ball when Curry is getting all the attention, like he should, right? But he's faced this multiple, and he's still a 30-something point per game guy, even with all this attention. Goes to show you how freaking good this guy is, man.
Yep.
He's amazing, right?
Okay, so now I move forward to your question about Jimmy Butler and questioning the defense. So the reason I think these things are connected is because Jimmy Butler, I think, understands that in order for them to be successful against these long teams, they have to create chaos. And that chaos is created on the defensive end. When you have a lot of transition hoops, then that allows the defense to not be set, and that allows Curry to do his thing. But when they're not a good defensive team, they're not creating those transitions, and therefore the opponent is able to set up their defense, and then they limit the Warriors into what they can do because these guys are long. You got like a 6'9", 6'10" guy guarding Curry out there. Curry can't really shoot over him, can't get around him. And then when he does get around him, there's another 6'9", 6'10" guy just there waiting for him. And so I think Jimmy understands that you got to create chaos. And that's got to be through tipping passes, creating turnovers, doing all of that on the defensive end. And if they can't do that, they're not going to succeed. So I think what Jimmy's really saying is our success is built on the fact that we create good defense. And if we can't play good defense, we're not going to win. Good.
What's interesting, bro, is that looking at their defensive rating, how they rank in the NBA, they're the 10th best team ranked right now in defensive rating. All right. Who's ahead of them? The Oklahoma City Thunder, of course. Miami Heat are number 2. The Mavericks, interestingly enough, are number 3. Detroit Pistons are 4. The Spurs are 5. Toronto Raptors are 6. Cleveland Cavaliers are 7. Rockets are 8. Timberwolves are 9. And then the Warriors are 10. This is defensive rating, right? So, I mean, they're not bad, but in order for them to be good, they have to be in the top 5. They have to be, dude.
Yes.
They have to be, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what I'd be interested in is if you have it in front of you, what is their offensive rating? My guess would be that they're somewhere between 15 and 20.
As far as where they're rated,
Right. Yeah, an offense.
they are number 22.
Yeah, see, so they're even worse than I thought. So that's the problem. The problem isn't so much when you look at the defensive rating, that's one half of the equation. You're preventing the other team from scoring, but now you can't score. You
can't score.
Yeah,
right.
and so,
No,
yeah,
teams have figured it out. They figured out that you stop Curry, you solve a lot of the problems with
correct.
that.
Yeah,
and that's why I think Jimmy Butler has to get more assertive offensively, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think he starts by pointing the finger at himself. Right, his style is a little lackadaisical. You know, he plays very kind of not in a rush.
Yes.
And I think we need to see a little bit of more of that on the defensive end. Not so much on the offensive end, but on the defensive end, I think we need to see that a little more.
Right. All right, man. So let me ask you this. Some other questions I want to ask you. So we know Melton is about to come back.
Yes.
Right.
They're both in Santa Cruz right now. They both got a son.
So, and then we know Kuminga has missed, this is now his 6th game that he's missed due to his knee tendonitis. He's ramping to come back and play. So who do the Warriors need more? Let me ask them. Or who helps them more out of those two? Who do they need more? Right? Let me ask you that.
So I'll put it to you this way. With the proper mindset and understanding, they need Kuminga. But given where they're at, they need Melton more.
Because and why do you say that?
Because Melton is going to understand what he needs to do better than and longer for a longer period of time than Kuminga is going to. And Eddie, I'm resigned to the fact Kuminga's gone. He's gone.
You think so?
Oh, I can feel it in the core of my being. He's gone. Dude. Because here it is. I don't know how hurt he is, and I don't want to question how hurt he is. But it was just convenient that when, like Kerr said he's going to start him, he's starting from this point forward. And all of a sudden he's hurt and he doesn't start. And all of a sudden he's trying all of these different people. He's putting in Will Richard. He's putting in Moody. He's putting in Pajemski. He's kind of messing all around, which to me tells me that that's something he wanted to do regardless. And
wait, who wanted?
I think Kerr's trying to find a formula.
Yeah, and you can see it, man. He's reaching. I mean, he's trying to figure out a combination. And dude, with a team this deep, you're going to struggle with that because they are a deep team, man. They are a deep team. They have a lot of perimeter players, though. They don't have bigs, right?
What's interesting, Eddie, is they're deep, but they're deep on the bench. They're not deep at starters.
Yeah, I agree with you. But all those guys can play, whether or not they're like NBA rotational 6th or 7th man guys remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But they have players that actually can do decent work on the court, right? Pajemski, I would probably argue he's probably more of a 7 or 8 guy on a team, right?
Yep.
Melton, although he's not played yet, he's more like a 6 guy coming off the bench, right?
It's like a 7, 8, or 9.
Who's it?
Horford?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably about a 9, right? And then you have a Will Richard, who's probably realistically probably like a 14 or 13 on a lot of teams, right? On a good team, right? Then you got like Quentin Post. Okay, Quentin Post is a guy, I think he's played better defensively. He's not shooting the ball as good as he used to.
He's not. But his defense is better. Yeah.
Defense is better. His rebounding's better. All that stuff is better, which is good. Which is what they need, right? So, but I would probably, given his size and what he can do on a team and shoot, I would probably put him like around 7 or 8, in that area.
Yeah.
Then you got Moses Moody, right? Moses Moody on a good team is probably like an 8 or a 9 too. Honestly, right?
Yeah, he's on the lower half. But that's what I'm saying is we have 3 starters on this team. We have Draymond, Steph, and Butler. And then we're trying to fill in the other 2 spots with whoever makes sense for that game. And my thing is Kuminga, to me, has not shown that he deserves to be that starter for every game of the season. He's also a player that is situation.
Yeah, but I'll tell you that he has the skill set to be like a starter on a bad team, right? On a good team, he's probably with the right mindset. I mean, the guy's still young, right? He's being coached up, but if he accepts the coaching, right, and applies it, he could be a 6 or 7 guy easy because he has that skill set. It's just his mind out there. He hasn't bought into it yet, 100%.
But even you're mentioning him as a 6 or 7 with the right mindset. So he's not even a starter with his mindset being correct. So that's my point is there's only 3 starters on this team. And that's really what the Warriors need to say. We only got 3 starters. Everybody else is a hodgepodge depending on who we play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because none of them can do it. Moody has moments where you're like, dude, he should start. Well, Richard has moments when you're like, dude, he should start. And then they both have moments where you're like, no, you need to be back on the bench.
I got to question Kerr a little bit sometimes, man. I mean, the guy has a tough task to try and figure this out, right? And you can't argue. He's a Hall of Fame coach. Was a 4-time champion. He did well with the team that he was given to him, right? And then, you could argue that he didn't necessarily do the best in developing the talent around him, right? Developing guys that they drafted. Probably the only one that they did pretty well was Jordan Poole. That's probably it, really, right after that, right? Moses Moody, he's probably maybe the next guy that you can probably say he's done pretty well. But Jonathan Kuminga has been in and out of the doghouse with him, But the thing is, what really frustrates me sometimes about Kevon Looney, right? But the one thing that really frustrates me about Kerr sometimes is that, we saw recently, maybe like around 7 games ago, where, he went ahead and changed the lineup to put Moody and Will Richard because of how well they played in garbage time in the previous games, right? Dude, the last time we were talking on this podcast, you had freaking Pat Spencer had the game of his life. And yet doesn't see the floor of the next game, man.
Yep.
That's what frustrates me, man. It's like,
I'm with you.
Yeah, why not play that guy more, man? I mean,
yep. And so here's my argument for why I want to see Pat Spencer more. Pat Spencer's ceiling, in my opinion, is not as high as Moody's, is not as high as Kuminga's, is probably not even as high as Will Richards. Him and Pods, I kind of put him sort of equal.
Yep.
The difference, though, is that I think Pat Spencer's floor is much higher than all those guys.
Yeah, that's a good call.
And so what you want is consistency. And so to me, you put him in there and I got a feeling that you're going to know what you're going to get out of Pat Spencer.
Correct.
Game in and game out. But when you put in Moody or you put in Kuminga, Kuminga will score 30 points one night and not get a single point the next night. He'll get 9 rebounds one night and then get no rebounds the next. Like that, and so you need to put somebody in there that's just going to give you consistent. And I think that's where Melton will be more consistent. I think Pat Spencer is more consistent. And of course, the other problem is that Kerr's trying to find somebody that can carry the load when older guys can't. And he doesn't have that on this team. That does not exist. Will it in a year or two? Maybe, but I don't see it. People want to make Kuminga that guy. Kuminga's not that guy. He can't do it. He can't carry a team. Maybe one day he will, but I don't see it. I don't see it now.
With the right mentals in him, he could be, and maybe Kerr is doing this to try and get the fire in him because, we have seen Kuminga have some fire this season, right? More so than any other season. And maybe Kerr is trying to, have him, dig deep and get that part out of him because with that comes, the determination to be better, right? And maybe that's why he's doing what he's doing, man. So anyway, bro, so we are out of pretty much time for this is actually episode 65. We are the Buzzer Beaters, and we're also known as the Cisco Kids. We're here every Wednesday live, actually, here to take your questions. We haven't got many questions recently, but we appreciate Guillermo chiming in with some of the Mark Cuban comments on that. We're here every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and we're here live because we want to hear from you, right? So anyway, we're going to go ahead and come back next week. We want to go ahead and wish you and yours a happy Thanksgiving and have fun with your family. Family is what it's all about in life, right? And just, appreciate what you have in life because you have a lot to be thankful, right? So anyway, I'm Eddie Aparicio. This is Anthony Tuan Corral, and we're going to go ahead and sign off. Have a good Thanksgiving, everyone, and see you next week.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these 2 boxes.